All right. Well, welcome back to another edition of The Better Contractor. Today, I'm happy to bring on Pat Morstad with Precision Landscape. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning. How you doing, Brent?
Doing well. Travis,
It's good to
our
see
our
everyone.
normal guest here. Not guest, just normal dude hanging out the podcast with us.
There's the call sign. We've been looking for one. Normal dude.
The normal dude.
The
Travis, the
normal
normal dude from Texas. I like it. Excited to have Pat on. Looking over the profile and stuff on you, Pat, I'm impressed. I love the growth history that you've had with Precision. I love, you partnered or not partnered, but worked with Cardone Ventures and Brandon Dawson, some who I'm familiar with, have not been a part of myself, but know a lot of people that have. And I love the transformation you did there. So, but just kind of kick off, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, anything personal you want to share. Who is Pat Morstad?
Well, I'm just a normal guy. Realistically, I went to college and at Michigan State University, I got my degree in agronomy, specializing in the turf field. So I came right out of college working and building golf courses. So years ago, we were building golf courses with the Nicholas Group and worked down in Birmingham, Alabama for a little while, prepping for the 1990 PGA tournament, and went from there over to Desert Mountain and Phoenix, Arizona, and spent some time there, and then I came back to Minnesota and spent some time in Minnesota building another course that's called Madden's Classic and ranks in Golf Digest top 100 courses and again great experiences over those years. But throughout all that time, I had my own aspirations to be in the landscaping industry or maybe owning my own business someday. And I always had a side job after work going out and working on, my landscaping. And there got to be a point where I was making more money in the landscaping field than I was in the golf industry. So years ago, my wife and I decided to make that transition. And through, you know, a lot of blessings from the good Lord above, we've been very successful over the years and been very happy and grateful because of that. So
Very cool. Very cool. What age, just curious, what age did you start like completely on your own where it wasn't a side gig?
oh geez, you're gonna ask me a difficult question. So if I'm 55 now, I was about 35 when I did it. So
Okay. Okay. To full time.
yeah,
Okay. Very cool. Um, so looking at your bio a little bit, you guys experienced a lot of growth in recent years.
yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that, because I guarantee you every guest that's listening to this podcast is probably wanting to know any secret you can share, any nugget of information you have on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing I can say is, if you're looking for, a hack or a secret, my personal opinion is they don't exist, right?
Yeah.
The reality is it takes hard work, and I would say if anyone's really truly looking for something, start looking at yourself first. Start developing yourself, changing your beliefs, where it is that you're going in life, and that's probably the most important thing that I can tell anyone. My growth started when we, for years we had been at probably a million, million one, million two that we were bringing in and netting about 100,000, and we felt like we were doing really good, but we didn't think that there was anywhere else for us to go. And just after 2020, we got introduced to an individual. His name was Brandon Dawson through Cardone Ventures, and went down to one of his, I would say, educational events, which was called a 10x 360, and it was a mind-blowing transformation and understanding what it is that we didn't know. And when your eyes get open to the factor of all the things in the world that you don't know, and you start to work on the things that you don't know, things change for you metamorphically. So our first year, we went from 1 million to 3.3 million and 500,000 net. So basically, we condensed time. So we brought 5 years forward that first year, with net profit, right? Because no matter what this whole world looks at, it's like, oh, I did this in sales. This is all great. It doesn't matter until you look at the bottom line and what are you really making money.
Yeah.
And our second year with Cardone Ventures, we went from that 3.3 to a little over 5.5 million, and we were $750,000 net. And last year we did 6.5 million, and we did again real close to that $750,000 net. We came down in net because of a couple of things, because we're changing operations ourselves internally. So we're trying to duplicate, myself and my wife, and trying to get us more out of the company. So we're bringing more people in to kind of fill our positions, and that's what business is. You go up a little bit, you come back down, and you go back up, and you come back down. But it's been a wonderful deal for us. Our goal this year is 8.7 million, and for the landscaping side, and then taking our 1.1 million that we did with the electrical company that we bought last year and bringing that to 2.3.
Very nice. I like your point a little bit about a lot of people want to talk about, oh, we went to 8 million or we went to 10 million or 12 million. If your net profit's not there, it doesn't really matter, because if you hit 12 million but it costs you 12.5, you
Right.
just lost 500,000, and you would have been better off at doing 2 million with a 100,000 net revenue. So
Right.
that's a good point to make, because a lot of people focus too much on that number. But you guys, percent wise, especially those first several years, did better actually, increasing your net revenue as a total compared to the other, which is really what it's all about. So
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
100%. No, like, what's the saying that I've heard before, and I don't know who came up with it, but it's like, revenue is vanity, and profits are sanity. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Um, what was the employee growth from that, like the million to, the eight?
well, I mean, we went through a transition of losing, quite a few people, and then gaining quite a few people. So we went from, you know, don't quote me on the numbers, but like right now, we're at about 35 people that we have within the business. So, and ours is real seasonal up here. So we have about 7 full-time staff, 8 full-time staff right now at this time of the year. And then once the season kicks in, then we ramp back up to that 35 or so. Um, but this year we're going to be adding crews, so we're going to be probably up closer up to that 45.
Okay. Um, as any of the business owners know that have scaled that quickly, one of the biggest issues we all have is experience,
Mm-hmm.
and retaining and keeping and attracting employees. What do you guys do to kind of, you know, to take care of those two issues?
Well, that was like one of my biggest weaknesses. So I spent a lot of time, studying books, learning leadership, and trying to understand, things that I could do for creating a different culture within, my organization. And I knew that because that was my biggest weakness, I had to spend the most time on that. And we developed some systems and processes that start with screening people. So we have a bunch of what we call cultural questions that we interview the employee first before they ever come in here, and we screen them out, because if they're not doing certain things and hitting certain words within our world, within the screening of culture, they don't even get a chance to come in here and sit down for an interview. And then once they sit down, then we've got operational effectiveness, questions that we put them through. And then at the end, then we give them another test. So basically there's 3 interviews with us. And then it's a core values presentation. So we've got core values that we have set in place, and then they have to give us a presentation on what they mean to themselves personally, and what it means for them professionally in their professional world. So
I love that. So safe to say, quick to fire and slow to hire?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's in, in the very beginning. I think as owners, sometimes you have a what I would call a dependability or a dependency on people, right? And you think in the very beginning that I'm not going to be able to do anything without this person, and you're dependent on one person. And what I really truly realize is that you know sometimes the best thing you can do is those people might not be the right fit for your company, and the sooner that you let them go, it gives you the opportunity to be able to grow and move along even faster. And that's how we went from that 1.1 to 3.3 instantaneously when we changed what it is that we were doing.
So you've changed your culture as well.
Oh yeah,
How
100%.
did that change your turnover from like before you did this transformation to today?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, if you look at the numbers, it was well over 100% because we went, we probably lost 90% of the people right away, and then we're kind of, I would say, floundering back and forth between the factor of hiring the right people and developing the right tactics to get some of the right people in, and we made mistakes going forward. So we probably had 110% turnover, right? But we still were able to move forward and start to crush things at different levels that we were never able to do before, because we were starting to get some of the right people in and do the things that we needed to do.
What let you know that you were on the right track? So other people would look at, well, hey, if you're having high turnover, so you guys didn't have an unsuccessful business to begin with. It was successful. So all the processes, culture, people that you'd put into place had led you to success. So having 90% turnover, even 50%, 25%, especially if you had the mentality of, well, I need these people. So other people, other organizations, other leaders might look at that as an indicator. Hey, I'm doing something incorrectly here. So what was it? What was the anchoring point that you guys relied on to let you know that this is okay? Um, and this is maybe what, I don't know if you expected it or not, but you were on the right track and not see it as an indicator that you were off track.
We were measuring by the numbers. Really simple. I mean, when the numbers start going up, are you doing the right thing? Well, obviously something's working, right? Don't really know what it is yet. I can't pinpoint my finger 100% on it, but when you start to measure by the numbers and you pay attention to what's going on from a mathematical standpoint, because that's what you know, I look at QuickBooks every single day, right? That's the first thing that I do every single morning. So I'm looking at, what was our revenue, where are we at with gross profit margin, and what's our net, and those are like high level numbers that I look at every single day. But when you're very aware of that and know what's going on, it's really easy to start to see that you know you're succeeding in some stuff too, right? And then all of a sudden you're able to pinpoint, okay, so when I brought this person in, how do I want to model, mimic, and master after that person, because this person is exactly what I want. They have the right attitude, and we were able to train them for the results that we wanted, right? So then now how do I start duplicating that, right? And that's what we focused on really clearly that way.
What do you think your turnover rate is now? Just because I like looking at 90% to
Yeah, well, I would say it's probably in that 10% range, you
that's
know.
awesome.
So
That's awesome. That shows how drastic of a change you guys made. An effective change at that.
yeah, no, and it all starts with your hiring, and before somebody, it was almost uncanny, because we would just say, if you had a heartbeat, you're good enough, come on in, and then we were wondering why we were failing with people, and people not showing up to work, and people not doing the things that we wanted them to do. Well, we didn't go through the process of screening them properly, and that was my fault, right? And that's what business owners have to understand, is that it all starts with us. and no matter what, it's me, right? And so it was my failure by bringing those people in. It wasn't their fault, it was mine. And when you look at yourself from that standpoint, all of a sudden you start to say, okay, what do I have to change about myself to start changing what comes into your world?
Brent has to say, you're going to scale something, whether it's chaos or structured success, but you're going to scale something. So essentially, it's the exact story that you had a process before. Hey, if you're breathing, you can fog a mirror and maybe go hold some equipment. You're hired. That was the process, and it was you were scaling that, scaling chaos, and it was giving you limited amount of success compared to what you wanted. Seems like your structure of the new cultural fit, your goals, and some other processes and things. You swapped that process or that procedure and the things that you were doing out, and you were scaling now something completely different that was more aligned with you. So I love that contrast because we've talked about it on a couple other episodes of putting structure in, putting it in early, really figuring that out and being deliberate about what you're scaling. I love that.
Yeah, I think with in the industry in general, there's a lot of issues with contractors, lawn, landscape, whatever, tree, that do not take the hiring process seriously. They,
Hmm.
like you said, they will literally hire a warm body, and then they get mad when it doesn't work out or the job doesn't go well or a tree falls on somebody's house or whatever major event happens and they get mad at the employee. But the fact is, they didn't onboard, they didn't train, and they weren't picky about who they hired. So really, it's a leadership issue because there's a lot of people that need a job and want a job. So it's a leadership issue for not putting the right person in the right role, training them to set expectations. But then also, I love the one point you made about leadership development. So you poured time into yourself. So there's so many times that a boss or business owner will think, I don't really need anything. I mean, I've created this. So I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. I've created this business. We're doing a million, we're doing 10 million, 20 million, whatever it is. I don't need that. And that's so untrue. So I love that you push yourself with Cardone Ventures. There's other platforms out there, business groups online, business groups in person. But I think any business owner, absolutely, without a doubt, has to constantly be growing, personal development, business development, pushing themselves. Because I think the moment we stop doing it, the whole company stops doing it as well. They can tell that that leader
100%.
is not investing back in himself. But then I think the next key, and this goes back to the culture point, is we can't stop with us. So if you think like the hierarchy, the little pyramid, if we're doing it, but we're not transferring that to the next level of management and teaching them to transfer it to the next and to the next to the next, some people will see it stops with them or it stops at a person below them.
Hmm.
That development has to be something that goes all the way through that culture, that organization. What have you guys done to kind of help like the managers, the foreman, foreperson in the field also have your same mentality?
Well, again, we have what we call an EMM scale, an employee maturity model, right? And within that model, we have certain things in there like things that they have to learn. So let's just say general labor to crew lead, and I'm just going to give off the top of my memory with some of this stuff. So a general laborer will come in and he'll say, "I aspire, to move on up at some point within my career." As we have what are called PPF conversations, so we talk about people's personal, professional, and financial goals. So we know are very clear and we know exactly what these people want, right? And so then it's how we as a company have to align their goals with the goals of the company. So in that EMM model, we have for them to mature and move on to the next level, as a general laborer, they've got to start to learn, ICPI and NCMA training. And now I don't remember what it's called now, but because of the factor that they've merged, so we try to get our guys certified within that. That gives them an opportunity to move on up. We suggest certain books. So books that we look at, just off the top of my mind are Dr. Robert Anthony, Beyond Positive Thinking. The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. Um, so some books like that, when you start to get into stuff where people are just, instead of just me leadership, where they have to actually start to move into we leadership, to where they're going to be managing others, then we have start suggesting other things and other books, and you know um, you know um, books like you know Brandon Dawson has a couple of books that are out there that are very good to read. Grant Cardone has lots of books that are good to read. Natalie Dawson, Teamwork was an amazing book. So those are things that we another one, 21 Laws of Leadership by um, uh,
Maxwell.
yeah, John Maxwell. And so those individuals are mentors of mine, and how I look at stuff. But then it gives opportunities for people to start to say, why are we doing these things, why are we reading these things, but it's developing them as a person, right? And when that development starts to come into play, and we're talking with them every single month about their personal, professional, and financial goals, and holding them to their metrics, this whole network of the things that we're doing and how we're presenting this stuff, and making success clear and easy for these people, it helps them understand. So, some of that is training through Cardone Ventures. So, I have sales staff that train every single day on Cardone University. I have, like let's just say, use Michelle that I have, who is an amazing, project manager for me, who, I love and appreciate dearly. And I'm going through myself personally what's called, business leadership or business mastery leadership program through Cardone Ventures. And it's basically a 2-year program where you've got to do all these modules, all this training, and have, you know, um, you know Zoom video casts that we do every single week, and that's developing me as a leader. And Michelle is in that course as well. So she's farther behind than where I'm at, but because I found that was so valuable to me, I needed to make sure, one, I had to get her buy-in and say, is this something that you want to do and change and develop yourself as a leader? And she was all in on that, saying, yes, 100%, that's what I wanted to do. And then now she's starting to utilize, and then now we're speaking the same language. So when I'm talking about something and she comes to me for advice, then she'll turn around and then she'll speak the same thing, but then she's also hearing it again the third and fourth time with our training through BMLP. So it's great to be able to have that kind of assistance and leaderships throughout everything. And now she's training people that are underneath her. So we have what we call the rule of three. The rule of three is yourself and then two others underneath you. And how do you start training and developing the two people underneath you? It's that multiplication right now.
Yeah, that's key to growth right there.
So you guys do financial Fridays or something. So is that a religious? Every Friday is Financial Friday, um, and what was that intended to accomplish?
Well, so it's transparency, right? So that's one of our core values that we have, and Financial Fridays is essentially, it's it's the scoreboard at the Super Bowl, right? So you're not going to be able to put a little extra effort in at the end of the month if you don't know what the scoreboard says. So that's why we utilize Financial Friday. So we basically go through, electrical, what we brought in for the week, and what our target was, and where we're sitting at from a net standpoint, and we also talk about what's in the pipeline. So that's kind of our Financial Fridays, because realistically, what we want to be able to do is only have one emotion in our business, and that one emotion is celebration.
Hmm.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's a good analogy to, kind of compare it to like the Super Bowl, because a lot of companies don't do that, where they don't really tell the employees, here's how we're doing. They're all out there playing your game and your move all year long, but no real idea of what the score is. Another thing you brought up earlier was the promotion process. So a lot of companies, I've noticed, like, there may not even be a process at all. It may be the employee has to come to them to ask for a raise, or it may be an inflationary type deal or a promotion only type deal. I
right.
love that you guys sit down. We do that with Corp as well, where we sit down and we try to go over the employee goals, not just the company goals. Both are important, but the employee goals as well. But then also, one of my mentors has always said, we got to create a vision so big
Hundred
for the
percent.
company that each employee's goals for their life can fit inside of that overall vision. And then we have
Absolutely.
to execute on it. We have to do it. We can't lie to them about it either.
Yeah.
But I like that you guys are doing that. I think that's something key for a lot of the listeners to remember. It's not just, nobody wants to just get a $1 raise every year. They have goals in their life too. We have to hear those goals and help them to get to that point. So I love that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, and it after a while, you get employees asking you, "Hey, when's my next PPF conversation?" Right? And sometimes if you're able to help these people achieve things within their lives, and we have a big bell in our office, right? And when somebody achieves a goal, whether it's personal, professional, or financial, we tell them, go out, if you want to share that, go out and ring the bell, and everybody stands up and it says a woohoo, and it's a great thing. And you know sometimes it's not always about money, right? Sometimes it's about family, or they wanted to go on XYZ trip, and how do we provide the opportunity for them to be able to get there and achieve that. And that's us as the company aligning our goals with the employee, and nobody's ever done stuff like that in our area, and they're like, it's just amazing. And all it doesn't take long in a town of our size, 400 people, to tell the whole community what's going on. So
And you just resonated with me. So we're Atlanta Corp's in a town of about 700,
yeah,
so you're 400 and around 40 employees. We're around 70, 80 employees in a town of 700. So it's kind of interesting how that works. But obviously we pull from a big area because we
yeah,
travel, but still
yeah.
that's kind of interesting too, though. That's cool.
Yeah, and we're thank the good Lord above, we're blessed with great and remarkable people, and we're very fortunate that way all the time. I tell my wife how grateful and thankful I am for everything that we have, and it's just been getting better and better all the time. So
Yeah,
it's amazing.
that's awesome. Well, you guys are doing the steps to do that, the continuous growth and stuff.
Yeah,
Um, One thing you mentioned earlier made me think about KPIs. We didn't really talk about that pre-podcast, but I'm positive you know what they are, and I'm positive that you do them. So
yeah,
tell me a little bit about that.
yeah. I mean, so there's business KPIs, right? So what the business has, for its targets, and then how the employee itself has their own KPIs. So we've got basically anywhere between 3 to 5 KPIs, per role, and those KPIs, could be anything from, like, out the gate in the morning to, um, basically what we try to figure out is how we create more efficiency. So how we bring how the employee themselves directly impact their job that would directly impact revenue within the business. So it takes a lot of thinking and a lot of time and effort that goes behind that. But then that's how the employees are bonused too. So, let's just use three of them. So then one third of their bonus is based off of, KPI one third of their bonus is based off of KPI two, and one third of their bonus is based off of KPI three. And when you do it that way, and say that, you have an 80% target. If once you hit that 80% target, then you get payout on that portion of the bonus, right? And that's part of our PPF conversations and our metric conversations, what we call the one-on-ones that happen every single month. So again, talking about the scoreboard, and they know exactly where they're at, and we know exactly where they're at, and we know if we're winning, and they also know if they're going to be getting a bonus. So
I love that. So that's something we've struggled with here is how often to do those. I'm just curious. Do you guys do those monthly or quarterly or annually?
yeah, we do them monthly. It's as so we do them from the standpoint of ownership, so Tristan and I, and then Michelle and I, so, upper level management, and then how we kind of break that out into employees. But when you start, going to, 35, now going to be, 45 employees, we're going to have to start delegating that out. So we're going to have to go from, upper level management down into, crew leads, and crew leads are going to have to start doing those conversations and stuff too. So from a rhythm, we want to do it every single month and have clarity that way. You know, our consultants tell us that we should be doing it every 2 weeks. Um, when you got guys that are out in the field and you're having to pull guys in from the field, it's a little bit more difficult that way. So we found that the once a month cadence works really well for us and doesn't interfere with production.
Yeah, that's where I'm at is, and I agree with you guys in the 1 month because I know a few companies that do quarterly or even only annually. My issue with annually is it's so far out, it almost seems like unattainable or they lose sight of it.
Right.
If it's quarterly, it's a little better, but if it's monthly, most of our bills are what? They're monthly bills.
Right.
So then they can look forward to, hey, if I hit this, this, and this, then I can get this, and that helps pay for this. So it's that more immediate reward, but it renews every month. So
Yeah.
and it gives you guys a chance for more touch points.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's transparency. It's inspirational to them as employees. Especially when they see others winning. So and it's accountable, and it's showing results, and it helps them be disciplined. So and those are all part of our core values.
Yeah. Uh, Tell me a little bit about your core values. I was going to bring that up earlier and I actually forgot. But what are your core values and how do you? So I have kind of a saying here that I don't typically like core values for most companies because they're just like on the website, on a board in the meeting room or whatever, and that is it.
Yeah.
So like with us, we try to kind of hire, fire, make decisions by those core values because they actually do matter. It's how we conduct our business. I'm interested to see someone else that's kind of doing the same thing, and interested to see how you guys implemented those, pick those, and use those throughout the organization.
Yeah, and if we want, we can role play on how I use that and stuff too. But quite often, like for us, like you said, we hire by our core values, we fire by our core values, we discipline by our core values, and we reward off of our core values. And before our employees come in, and are part of their team, they have to give us a core value presentation. So our core values are accountable, results oriented, transparent, inspirational, disciplined, and results oriented. Did I say results oriented? So, and anyway, that's essentially six of them, right?
Yeah.
And with that, we utilize them in conversations, right? So when, let's just say somebody's not performing like they're supposed to, and so let's just guy shows up late, right? and he's a crew lead, so it's like, okay, Brent, I know that you've been having some troubles and not necessarily getting here on time in the morning, but what I want you to see and understand is that you're not being very inspirational to the other members that you're trying to train and get put into place, because you're not showing the results and you're not being accountable to what it is that you need to do. So you have to work on, and what I need from you is to be able to commit to the factor of you being a little bit more disciplined to showing up on time. Brent, how do you feel about that?
Hey, I appreciate you letting me know that up front, and I can definitely do better for my team. So
Yeah, so again, when you start to utilize those core values instead of saying, "Damn it, Brent, you should have been here," you're an idiot, and
yeah,
now you're just attacking the person. But when you can utilize those core values, it makes the person think a little bit differently and be able to utilize a different thought process behind what it is. You know what? Hey, I understand. You're right. Today I was not disciplined. I didn't get up on time. I hit the snooze on my alarm clock, and it won't happen again. That's my fault.
yeah. And from a psychological standpoint, it takes it from being a personal attack to your team. So it takes more to a team effort, which is what I think works best.
I agree.
I think too is the relationship that you have with the employees. If it was so, there has to be a foundational I care about you to make those conversations successful as they are. And um, it would be a harsh, cold reality if you came to them like, why you showing up late? Because if you step back too, you probably notice, because there's other things. You'd probably notice that there were other things influencing that. Whether it was just they dropped the ball a couple times, but say that their family was sick, the wife got diagnosed with cancer, or they just lost their parents or something that would be influencing, or the kid was dealing with issues. If you didn't have that relationship with them, yeah, it would just end up in the conference room. Hey, what's going on? You showing up late, and it would be, then it shouldn't be that you're realizing that there was something personal with them. But that would probably manifest differently if those relationships were there ahead of time, is you would see them often. There would be other conversations. Hey, what's going on? It wouldn't even. It would probably wouldn't start with, "Hey, you were late. What's the deal?" It would, "Hey, I noticed you're off a little bit, or your tension. You're just not yourself. What's going on?" And having that personal communication. I know that's transpired in multiple organizations that I've been a part of, both for better or worse. But I think some of the ones that we've seen the most successful is what you guys have created, and part of that culture of, you create that family where it starts off before that conversation even happens. It's, I care about you. Uh, and I see the things going on with you for better or worse, and a reward, and I'm there for you. Can a lot of the times, I don't know, it's more of a question. Do those conversations happen? How often are you having those tough conversations before it's mitigated with uh, talks and an extended conversation before it, or you head off?
Yeah, I mean, I think the tough conversations are really easy in our world because, again, when you go back to our core values, we hold people accountable. you know we want to show the results every single day, and we want to be disciplined, right? And that discipline is also comes from us as leaders too. So it's really easy to have those conversations because, you know one, we also know a lot about the people. So, like, part of that PPF conversation, the personal, professional, and financial goal setting, we get to understand those people, right? And that conversation of knowing those people also gives us, an understanding of where they're going. So sometimes you can say, you know, how are you going to be able to achieve your goals? Because we talked about the factor that, Travis, you wanted to be able to be, a crew lead in the next, year. How do you think that you're going to be able to show and be inspirational to others if you're showing up to late on all the time? So it's really easy to be able to kind of use the core values as that tool as a leader, and then use the core values and say, listen, we've got a much bigger thing to do. What we're accomplishing together here, it's a much bigger thing, right? And for you to accomplish your goals, Travis, and for me to accomplish the goals, of the company, we have to all be aligned, and we all have to be going in the right direction that way. Alignment. That was the other one I think I forgot.
The six. But I mean,
So,
those conversations are happening before, and I guess is where I'm getting to as far as the one-on-ones. Those conversations are happening, kind of micro conversations before the monthly one-on-one. So the crew lead is probably having those conversations with their crew on a daily basis. It's
yeah.
little micro corrections all along, because it comes out of I, I I worked for a large corporation for many years, and we had global teams that reported to the leadership, might not be co-located. There was an expectation, there was weekly one-on-ones. The larger your, and it ended up probably defaulting to bi-weekly, but those touch points, it was formal, especially if you weren't working with them on a day-to-day basis. And I think where that was driven out of was to try and establish that ongoing conversation where it's less formal, but if you're not having that daily conversation connection with them, that weekly touch point is more informal and conversational, and you don't lose track of their performance or that engagement by just that once a month where it's just bullet point. We got 45 minutes and we're just all business. But to show it was an artificial way, maybe of trying to create that personalization. The weekly stuff, the more longer your team or the bigger your team got, the more difficult, and you just couldn't do it. But those conversations would oftentimes end up on phone calls, because they weren't co-located with you. Obviously, there's no replacement for in person, but to have those touch points so that you can course correct and make micro improvements or corrections before it actually got far off course one way or the other. It's zero point 0.5 degrees off course week one, but by the time the monthly one-on-one, there's 6 degrees off course, or
Right.
more off the rails completely. So there's probably a missing piece in there, that so that week or that monthly one-on-one that you guys are doing is firm and established. But for the audience there, those conversations, you're not losing track of those people. There's like micro conversations and course corrections happening daily within the the crews. And then there was also statistics out that the younger generations need more of that, uh, partially where they've been raised, the culture that they were where, and that's a stark contrast too between some of us who are in their 40s and above. It was, if I don't hear anything, uh, I know everything's good.
Right.
But
The news is good
Right.
news.
yeah, no, no, this is good news. Is kind of our state. But now when we're mixing those two cultures, the younger generations get frustrated because they're not getting any feedback, and they're actually used to a lot of touch points and a lot of feedback, and trying to manage that has been critical for a lot of organizations.
Yeah, I think those, like you said, the frequent touch points are key. So if you look at touch points and then you look at the culture, so if you only are evaluating, and some companies never really evaluate. It's only things are really bad and we're getting ready to fire you. This is your first warning and final warning. That's the only touch point they get. But if you had done a monthly touch point with that person and let them know, hey, this isn't quite where I need to be. You're doing great in these areas, but this is not quite where I need to be. By the time we meet next month, this is really what I need to see from you. But I think having those, but then a culture of respect, though, for you as the leader is key too. Because I know I've fired people that have shaken my hand when they've left the room, which is
Mhm.
weird to a lot of people. But it's because there was a respect there, and there was a fairness, and it was done in a humane. I still know you're a human being.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't hate you for it. Um, but having those, so there's three things I think are key in leadership. So one is do what you say. I think that's absolutely critical. Number two is practice what you preach. So your core values that you talk about, all that kind of stuff you do, if you're not doing them, nobody else is going to do them. And
Absolutely.
also, if you don't do what you say you're going to do, respect is lost. And then number three is the constant execution of task. So if your people know, hey, I can count on you, If you say something, you're going to get it done. In second or third, you practice what you preach. So everything you're telling me to do, I know you're doing it. I then have a complete different respect for you as a leader. And then when you come to me and say, "Hey, dude, you're not doing these things quite to our standards at Precision, at Lander Corporate, wherever company," it hits different,
Mhm.
plain and simple. So I think you guys have done a good job, from what I can tell, of building that respect as well, which has allowed you to have those tougher conversations in monthly touch points to be effective.
Yeah, and you know, one of John Maxwell's, law of attraction, you attract the things that are like, right? So if you exemplify all of those characteristics and all of your core values, then you're gonna attract people that are essentially the same way as you, and it's uncanny how well that works, and the universe is an amazing thing, and it gives you surprising things over time, and you just have to kind of open your eyes to it and pay attention to it. So
Yeah. No, I love it. Well, guys, we probably should start wrapping up. Is there anything else you want to share, Pat, that's on your mind?
no, again, I think like what we talked about at the very beginning, I think the most important thing that people can do is look at themselves and start to developing themselves, because if they want to have great teams, you as a leader, you have to be up above and leading them, and if you're not above them, you're not going to be attracting the people that you want into your organization. So it's that constant development and that constant learning is the most important thing that you can do, and it changes your whole life. So
I love that. Travis, final thoughts.
I think we could take this
I
conversation
know.
for another hour.
I try to think if we want to do a part two. I know we have your project manager Michelle on the next podcast, so this is technically a part one podcast, I guess, and the next
yeah,
one
There you go.
part two with Michelle, so we can
yeah,
dive
she's
in.
amazing, and I love her and appreciate her. She's a great person and a great team member. So
That's awesome. I can't wait to talk to her. But guys, it's really, you've heard Travis and I talk so much about two things, and it was reiterated here on this podcast today. Culture is king, and systems and processes rule. If you
oh
guys
yeah,
are not doing those two things, you will scale chaos if you don't have the proper system and system processes and systems. And if you don't have a culture, your employee retention, especially now in this climate, this environment, and with this newer generation, if you do not have culture, your employee retention is not going to be good. So you have to do it. It is time consuming. The results are not immediate, but so worth it once you have built that culture. Gosh, the sky's the limit.
absolutely, absolutely.
Well, Pat, thank you for your time today. Awesome conversation. Probably one of my favorite podcasts so far. Travis, thank you as always. And
Well,
yeah,
I'm always here for you guys. So I appreciate like-minded people, and I love hanging around you guys. So it's awesome. So
awesome. I'll definitely be in touch after the podcast as well. I want to talk to you a little bit more about some stuff. So, but
absolutely, absolutely.
everybody listening, if you liked it, share the podcast. If you don't, tune out. Thank you, everybody. Bye.